Everything you've been taught about confidence is a lie. You've been told that confidence comes from success, that you need to achieve something before you can feel confident about achieving more. This is backwards thinking that keeps people trapped in cycles of mediocrity forever. The truth that successful people don't want you to know is that confidence doesn't come from results. It comes from the conversations you have with yourself when nobody else is listening, while you're waiting to feel confident enough to take action. Confident people are taking action to create the feelings they want. They've learned to manufacture confidence through strategic self-talk, and they're using this unfair advantage to get the opportunities, relationships, and results that you think are reserved for people who are naturally gifted. You've been playing by rules that guarantee you'll lose, while others are playing by rules that guarantee they'll win. Your mind generates over 60,000 thoughts every single day. 60,000 conversations happening inside your head. And here's what most people never realize. You are having these conversations whether you pay attention to them or not. The question is not whether you talk to yourself. The question is whether you are programming yourself for success or failure with every single word you think. I want to share something with you that changed my life completely. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was sitting in my car before an important business meeting. I caught myself saying, I hope I don't mess this up. I'm not sure I'm prepared enough. What if they ask me something I can't answer? Then it hit me like a lightning bolt. I realized I was my own worst enemy, and I had been sabotaging myself for years without even knowing it. That moment of awareness led me to conduct an experiment that transformed everything. I decided to monitor and change my internal dialogue for just 3 days. 3 days. That's all it took to see dramatic changes in my confidence, my performance, and the results I was getting in every area of my life. Here's what I want you to understand. Your brain is the most sophisticated computer ever created, and it's running programs 24 hours a day. These programs are your thoughts, your beliefs, and the words you say to yourself. Most people are running virus-infected software in their minds, programs filled with doubt, fear, and limitation. But you can install new software. You can reprogram your mental computer, and it starts with changing how you talk to yourself. Scientists have proven something remarkable through brain imaging technology. When you repeatedly think certain thoughts, your brain actually forms new neural pathways. These pathways become like highways in your mind, making it easier and more automatic to think those same thoughts again. This is called neuroplasticity, and it means your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on your mental habits. When you tell yourself, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, or things never work out for me, you are literally strengthening the neural pathways that support failure and limitation. But when you consciously choose to say, I can handle this, or I am capable and confident, or I create my own opportunities, you build highways that lead to success. The most successful people in every field have one thing in common. They have learned to become their own best friend instead of their own worst enemy. They have trained themselves to use supportive, encouraging, and empowering self-talk. This isn't positive thinking for the sake of feeling good. This is strategic mental programming for peak performance. Let me tell you about a study done with basketball players. 2 groups practiced free throws for 30 days. One group physically practiced shooting baskets for 30 minutes daily. The other group spent 15 minutes practicing and 15 minutes sitting quietly, visualizing perfect shots while saying to themselves, perfect form, perfect follow-through, nothing but net. At the end of 30 days, both groups improved their shooting percentage by exactly the same amount. The power of mental practice combined with positive self-talk was equal to physical practice. Your internal dialogue creates your external reality. When you consistently tell yourself you're capable, you start noticing opportunities you missed before. When you remind yourself that you're resilient, you bounce back faster from setbacks. When you affirm that you're valuable, You start demanding better treatment from others and better results from yourself. Most people think that confidence comes first, then positive self-talk follows. They have it backwards. Positive self-talk creates confidence. Action taken with positive self-talk creates results. Results create more confidence, which makes positive self-talk feel more natural. It's an upward spiral that starts with changing your internal conversation. The tragic truth is that most people are more critical of themselves than they would ever be of their worst enemy. They say things to themselves that they would never say to another human being. They accept a standard of internal dialogue that they would never tolerate from anyone else. This has to stop if you want to achieve your full potential. And I'm going to challenge you to something that will seem almost too simple to work. For the next 3 days, I want you to become aware of how you talk to yourself. And I want you to consciously choose words that support your success instead of sabotaging it. 3 days of deliberate, positive, empowering self-talk. 3 days of treating yourself like someone you care about and want to see succeed. You might think 3 days isn't enough time to create lasting change, but you're wrong. 3 days is enough time to break the automatic pattern of negative thinking. 3 days is enough time to experience the power of supportive self-talk. 3 days is enough time to prove to yourself that you have complete control over your mental state and your results. The words you say to yourself in the next 72 hours will either move you closer to your goals or further away from them. They will either build your confidence or tear it down. They will either create opportunities or blind you to the ones that already exist. The choice is yours, and the time to make that choice is right now. Your current level of success is a direct reflection of your current level of self-talk. If you want to change your results, you must first change your internal dialogue. If you want to achieve more, be more, and have more, it starts with talking to yourself like someone who deserves success, someone who expects success, and someone who creates success through their thoughts, words, and actions. The most important conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Make sure it's a conversation that leads to the life you truly want to live. Now, let me tell you about the voice that has been running your life without your permission. This is the voice of limitation, the voice of fear, the voice that whispers you're not ready when opportunity knocks. This voice didn't develop overnight, and understanding where it came from is the first step to silencing it forever. When you were born, you had no limiting beliefs. You had no voice telling you what was impossible. A baby learning to walk doesn't think, I might fall, or I'm not coordinated enough. They simply get up, take a step, fall down, and get up again. Somewhere between that fearless child and the person you are today, someone installed limiting software in your mental computer. Maybe it was a parent who said money doesn't grow on trees so often that you developed a scarcity mindset about wealth. Maybe it was a teacher who told you that you weren't smart enough, fast enough, or talented enough. Maybe it was friends who mocked your big dreams until you learned to keep them small and safe. Maybe it was society telling you to be realistic until you forgot how to be remarkable. These voices became your voices. These limitations became your limitations. What started as external criticism became internal programming. And now you carry these people around in your head, continuing their work of keeping you small, safe, and unsuccessful. Listen to the conversations happening in your mind right now as I speak. When I mention achieving great success, does a voice say, that's not for people like me? When I talk about taking bold action, does something whisper, but what if I fail? When I suggest you deserve extraordinary results, does your internal critic respond with, who am I kidding? These automatic responses are costing you everything. Every time you think, I'm not smart enough for that promotion, you fail to prepare adequately or present yourself confidently. Every time you tell yourself, I'm not attractive enough, or I'm not interesting enough, you avoid social situations where you could meet your ideal partner or build valuable relationships. Every time you say, I could never start my own business, you ignore opportunities that could change your financial future forever. The critical voice operates like a prison guard in your mind. It keeps you locked in a cell of mediocrity, convincing you that it's protecting you from disappointment when it's actually protecting you from success. It makes you afraid of looking foolish, so you never try anything that requires courage. It makes you fear rejection, so you never ask for what you really want. It makes you terrified of failure, so you never attempt anything great enough to fail at. Here's what most people don't realize about this internal critic. It's not trying to hurt you in its twisted way. It thinks it's helping you. It believes that if it can just make you small enough, cautious enough, and realistic enough, you'll never experience pain, rejection, or disappointment. But what it actually does is guarantee that you'll experience the deepest pain of all, the pain of regret, the pain of wondering what if, the pain of reaching the end of your life knowing you never tried. The mathematics of negative thinking are devastating. One negative thought leads to negative feelings. Negative feelings lead to negative actions or inaction. Negative actions lead to negative results. Negative results reinforce the original negative thought, creating a downward spiral that gets stronger every day. When you tell yourself, I always mess things up, you become nervous and make mistakes. When you make mistakes, you think, see, I told you I always mess things up. When you say, people don't like me, you become defensive and withdrawn. When people respond to your withdrawal by keeping their distance, you think, see, people don't like me. This is how the critical voice becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But here's what the critical voice doesn't want you to know. It only has power when you listen to it. It only controls your life when you believe what it says. It only limits your potential when you mistake its voice for truth. The moment you recognize that this voice is not you, not accurate, and not helpful, you can begin to replace it with something infinitely more powerful. The critical voice sounds like truth because you've been hearing it for so long. It feels familiar, automatic, and believable. But familiarity is not the same as accuracy. Just because you've been thinking limiting thoughts for years doesn't make them true. Just because negative self-talk feels automatic doesn't mean it's unchangeable. You have been carrying around internal programming that was installed by people who were probably carrying around their own limitations, their own fears, and their own unfulfilled dreams. You have been living according to rules you never agreed to follow, accepting limitations you never chose to accept, and settling for results you never wanted to settle for. The critical voice has had its turn. It has run your life long enough. Now it's time for a new voice to take control, the voice of possibility, the voice of confidence, the voice of someone who was born to achieve greatness and refuses to accept anything less. The human brain weighs only 3 pounds, but it contains more connections than there are stars in the galaxy. Every thought you think creates electrical activity that can be measured, photographed, and tracked. When neuroscientists study the brains of peak performers, Olympic athletes, successful entrepreneurs, top salespeople, they find something remarkable. These high achievers have literally rewired their brains for success through the power of positive self-talk. Dr. Caroline Leaf, a neuroscientist who has spent decades studying thought patterns, discovered that it takes only 21 days of repetitive thinking to begin forming a new neural pathway in your brain. But here's the exciting part. You can see measurable changes in as little as 4 days. This means that the 3-day challenge I'm proposing isn't just motivational theory. It's based on hard science. When you repeat positive statements to yourself, your brain begins to accept them as instructions. Your subconscious mind doesn't argue with what you tell it repeatedly. It simply goes to work, making your internal dialogue become your external reality. Tell yourself you're confident often enough, and your brain will start looking for evidence to support that belief. Tell yourself you're capable of achieving great things, and your mind will begin noticing opportunities that were always there but invisible to your previous programming. Muhammad Ali understood this science before scientists could explain it. He didn't just say, "I am the greatest," to intimidate his opponents. He said it to program his own mind for victory. He was literally rewiring his neural pathways for championship performance every time he spoke those words. His brain had no choice but to find ways to make his self-talk become reality. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people isn't talent, education, or even opportunity. The difference is the quality of their internal dialogue. Successful people have trained themselves to use what psychologists call empowering self-talk. They speak to themselves the way a loving parent speaks to a child they believe in completely. When faced with a challenge, unsuccessful people say things like, "This is too hard," "I don't know how," or "What if I fail?" Successful people facing the exact same challenge say, "I can figure this out, I'll find a way," or "This is an opportunity to grow." Same situation, different internal dialogue, completely different results. Here's what happens in your brain when you practice positive self-talk. The repetition strengthens neural pathways associated with confidence, creativity, and solution-focused thinking. At the same time, the pathways associated with doubt, fear, and limitation begin to weaken from lack of use. Your brain literally becomes rewired for success instead of failure. But there's a crucial difference between empty positive thinking and effective self-talk. Positive thinking says everything will work out fine. Effective self-talk says I have the ability to make things work out. Positive thinking is passive hope. Effective self-talk is active programming for peak performance. The most powerful self-talk combines three elements. First, it's stated in the present tense as if it's already true. Your brain responds better to "I am confident" than "I will be confident." Second, it's personal and specific to your situation. Generic affirmations are less effective than statements tailored to your goals and challenges. Third, it includes emotion. When you feel what you're saying, the neural pathways form faster and stronger. Professional athletes have used this science for decades. Before every performance, they engage in specific self-talk designed to activate their peak state. They don't hope to perform well, they program themselves to perform well through strategic internal dialogue. Your brain is waiting for new instructions. It's ready to rewire itself based on whatever you tell it most often. The question is not whether this works. The science is clear. The question is whether you're ready to take control of your mental programming and use it to create the life you truly want. The next 3 days will prove to you that your thoughts are not random events happening to you. They are tools you can use to build the exact future you desire. Now comes the moment of truth. For the next 72 hours, you're going to completely transform your internal dialogue using a proven system that has changed thousands of lives. This isn't theory anymore. This is your personal transformation laboratory, and you are both the scientist and the experiment. Here's exactly what you're going to do. Every morning for the next 3 days, before you check your phone, before you talk to anyone else, you're going to have a 5-minute conversation with yourself. You're going to look in the mirror and say these words with conviction. I am confident and capable. I handle challenges with ease. I attract opportunities and recognize them immediately. I am worthy of success and I take action to create it. But here's the key. You must say these words as if you already believe them completely. Your brain doesn't respond to words you speak with doubt. It responds to words you speak with certainty. If it feels awkward at first, that's normal. You're installing new software and it takes a moment for the system to accept the upgrade throughout each day. You're going to become a detective of your own thoughts. Every time you catch yourself thinking something limiting, I can't do this, this won't work, I'm not good enough, You're going to immediately replace it with empowering language. Instead of "I can't do this," say "I'm learning how to do this." Instead of "this won't work," say "I'll find a way to make this work." Instead of "I'm not good enough," say "I'm getting better every day." The key is speed. The faster you catch and replace negative thoughts, the weaker those old neural pathways become. Think of it like changing channels on a television. You don't negotiate with a bad program. You immediately switch to something better before important conversations, meetings, or challenges during these 3 days. You're going to prime your mind with specific success statements. If you have a difficult conversation coming up, tell yourself, "I communicate clearly and confidently. I listen well and respond with wisdom." If you're facing a work challenge, say, "I am creative and resourceful. I find solutions that others miss each evening." You're going to end your day by reviewing 3 specific things. One problem you handled well, one opportunity you recognized or created, and one moment when your positive self-talk made a difference in your results. This evening review reinforces the new patterns and helps your brain understand that the change is working. Now, let me warn you about what's going to happen. Your old programming is going to fight back. On day 2, you might hear thoughts like, "This is silly, it's not working," or "People will think I'm crazy if they hear me talking to myself." This resistance is actually proof that you're making progress. Your old limitations are fighting for their survival when doubt creeps in. And it will. Remember this, every successful person you admire has had to overcome the same internal resistance. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck is simple. Successful people push through the discomfort of change while others retreat back to familiar failure. You might feel self-conscious talking to yourself positively, but you never felt self-conscious talking to yourself negatively. You've been having internal conversations your entire life. Now you're simply choosing to make those conversations work for you instead of against you. By day 3, something remarkable will start happening. The positive statements won't feel forced anymore. They'll start feeling natural. You'll notice yourself standing taller, speaking with more confidence, and taking actions you previously avoided. This is your new programming taking hold. 3 days, 72 hours. That's all it takes to prove to yourself that you have complete control over your mental state and your results. The question isn't whether this works. The question is whether you're ready to work it. 3 days from now, you're going to wake up as a different person, not because magic happened, but because you finally took control of the most powerful force in your life, your internal dialogue. But here's what separates temporary change from permanent transformation. What you do on day 4 and every day after that. Let me tell you about Sarah, a sales manager from Chicago who attended one of my seminars 5 years ago. She was struggling with confidence, barely meeting her quotas, and convinced she wasn't cut out for sales. After learning about the power of self-talk, she committed to the 3-day protocol. On day 1, she felt ridiculous talking to herself in the mirror. On day 2, she caught herself replacing negative thoughts, but still felt skeptical. On day 3, something shifted. She walked into a client meeting with different energy, spoke with conviction she hadn't felt in years, and closed the biggest deal of her career. But Sarah's real transformation began on day 4. Instead of stopping the practice, she made positive self-talk a permanent part of her daily routine. She created what I call environmental triggers, specific moments throughout her day that automatically reminded her to check and adjust her internal dialogue. Every time she got in her car, she said, "I am confident and persuasive." Every time she picked up the phone, she told herself, "I add value to every conversation." Every time she walked into a meeting, she affirmed, "I solve problems and create opportunities." Within 6 months, Sarah became the top performer in her company within a year. She was promoted to regional sales director within 2 years. She started her own consulting firm. Today, she runs a multi-million-dollar business and speaks to organizations about the power of self-leadership. The 3-day experiment became a lifetime practice that transformed not just her career, but her entire life. Sarah's story isn't unique. I've seen this transformation happen thousands of times. The people who experience lasting change are those who understand a fundamental truth. Positive self-talk isn't something you do for 3 days to fix a problem. It's something you do for a lifetime to create excellence. Here's how to make this change permanent. First, you must understand that your old programming will try to reassert itself. Negative thinking patterns are like weeds. They'll grow back if you don't consistently tend your mental garden. The solution isn't to fight negative thoughts when they appear. The solution is to make positive self-talk so automatic that negative thoughts have no space to take root. Create what I call power anchors throughout your day. These are specific phrases connected to routine activities that reinforce your new programming. When you brush your teeth in the morning, say, "I am energetic and focused today." When you start your car, affirm, "I handle every situation with confidence and skill." When you sit down at your desk, declare, "I am productive and I create valuable results." These anchors turn ordinary moments into programming opportunities. The second key to permanent change is measurement. What gets measured gets managed. Keep a simple journal for the first month after your 3-day transformation. Each evening, write down 3 things. One example of how positive self-talk influenced your behavior that day. One result you achieved that you can directly connect to your improved mindset, and one area where you still need to strengthen your internal dialogue. This practice keeps you conscious of your progress and accountable to your growth. Third, share your transformation with others. When you teach someone else the power of positive self-talk, you reinforce your own learning. When you help another person change their internal dialogue, you strengthen your commitment to your own practice. Find someone in your life who could benefit from this message and become their mentor in mental transformation. As you guide them through their 3-day protocol of learning, you'll deepen your own understanding and commitment. Now, let me tell you what signs to watch for that prove your transformation is taking root. You'll notice that criticism from others bothers you less because your internal voice has become more supportive than their external voice is critical. You'll find yourself taking actions you previously avoided because your self-talk gives you courage instead of doubt. You'll start attracting different opportunities because your changed internal dialogue changes your external energy and presence. People will begin responding to you differently, though they won't be able to explain why. They'll sense your increased confidence before you fully feel it yourself. They'll be drawn to your positive energy before you realize you're projecting it. They'll trust your capabilities more readily because you've learned to trust them yourself. But perhaps the most profound change will be in how you handle setbacks. Instead of negative events confirming your limitations, they'll become opportunities to demonstrate your resilience. Instead of failures proving you're not capable, they'll become lessons that make you more capable. Your internal dialogue will shift from "why does this always happen to me?" to "how can I use this to become stronger?" The people who master this practice don't just change their results, they change their identity. They stop seeing themselves as victims of circumstance and start seeing themselves as creators of opportunity. They stop hoping things will get better and start making things better through the power of their thoughts, words, and actions. Here's your final challenge. Don't just complete the 3-day protocol. Commit to making positive self-talk a permanent part of who you are. Decide right now that you will never again accept negative programming from yourself or anyone else. Decide that your internal dialogue will only support your growth, your goals, and your greatest possibilities. 20 years from now, you'll look back on this moment as either the day you learned something interesting about self-talk or the day you decided to completely transform your life. The difference between those two outcomes isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. The difference is whether you commit to speaking to yourself like someone who deserves success, expects success, and creates success through the power of their thoughts. Your 3 days start now. Your new life starts now. The person you've always been capable of becoming is waiting for you to have the right conversation with yourself. What you say to yourself in the next 72 hours will determine whether that person remains a possibility or becomes your reality. The choice is yours. The power is yours. The time is now. Talk to yourself like someone who was born to achieve greatness, because that's exactly who you are.